Welcome to Pizza Talk. Today we've got Anthony Mangieri coming to us from New York City, from Manhattan, from Una Pizza Napoletana, the New York branch. And then, of course, we'll hear a little bit more from Anthony about his New Jersey shop, which has been very active during this era, this COVID period. So we want to hear all about that. We want to catch up with you. We want to hear about your appearances on Billions, is playing a character named Anthony Mangieri on TV, and we want to hear all about that. So, Anthony, why don't you kind of catch us up a little bit and tell us how you've been dealing with this, with this crazy period that we're in, and how it's affected your restaurants.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, Peter. I have so much respect for you, and you're such a just as a side note, such like a guiding light, I think, for so many bakers and pizza makers and stuff. So it's always great to talk with you.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same about everybody we've had on the show, that everybody has sort of been a light for everybody else, which is the thing about this period.
Yeah. I mean, because we're all, especially like in the restaurant world right now, in the pizza world, which is part of the restaurant business, it's tough times, and people got to really get lean. So yeah, I guess a quick catch up is we're sitting here in the New Jersey Una Pizza, which is
Jersey now. Okay.
Yeah, we're in the New Jersey location, which is in the Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, not too far from where I had my very first business. Actually, it's only the phone's ringing.
You got ordered.
Yeah, maybe an order, but we're not open today. So yeah, it's really great being back here. It's been like a real beautiful homecoming, and I mean, I had planned to open this location. Gosh, man, I mean, we signed the lease, probably about a year and a half ago, and then it took us almost a year to build it out. All along this time, I had the one in New York open also, and had been trying to figure out, how am I going to have two locations for the first time in my career. And, the plan wasn't really totally understood how I was going to run both places. And I was, I have two great pizza makers that have been with me for quite a while at the New York branch. So I was thinking they can run that and then come down here, and then I'll go up there and all this stuff. And then we finally opened up here on February 28th. And we were open for 3 weekends, and then the shutdown happened. So at that point,
just under the gun there.
Yeah. So the crazy thing is, it kind of has put on hold my growth on how to run two restaurants, which had been basically making me sleepless up to the opening on February 28th. I was just really stressed out on how I'm going to do both, because I always. My pizza guys are amazing and talented, and, have every ability that I have to make the pizza. But I just feel an obligation to be in the space and to be there when customers come, and, people come out of their way to come there. I always feel like I should be there to be able to talk to them. So it was a big decision, and how to understand how to, get myself emotionally to that place. And then the shutdown happened, and I didn't have to do that, because then I shut the New York one, and the New Jersey one, it just seemed like I could run this one in a way much leaner than the New York one. It's a smaller space. It's in a small town. And we have these amazing windows in the front of the building that are huge. I mean, they're huge windows. And at one point, if you want, I'll take you guys on a little tour.
Yeah, we'd love to get a little tour, yeah.
But these windows are on hydraulics. And when we moved in, they were there, and I was like, well, we're never going to open them, because, if we open it, it's too hot, the dough over raises, it's too cold, whatever. It's we're barely ever using them. Then the shutdown happened, and I was like, oh my God, the window looks like we planned it for this shutdown. So we haven't had anyone actually come in the space since March, whenever that happened. I think around whenever that was, the 10th to the 16th. And we've just been running it out of the window. We open the window, we play some music. You can buy wine and beer out the front window. And it's just me and my dearest friend / partner at this location, who's not a restaurateur, but has, been learning the ropes down here with me. but I've known him my whole life, and we always wanted to do something together. And it's just been the two of us. You know,
Yeah.
we've been running it and selling. I mean, man, I got to tell you, like, I've been so blessed here. We were super busy when we opened pre-COVID, but then since we did the takeaway, man, like, the area and the state of New Jersey has been so supportive of me and this place. And I in all my restaurant locations, from like Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, to the East Village, to San Francisco, to the Lower East Side, back to this one, I've never been this busy consistently for this long of a stretch after the opening. We're still selling out takeaway only almost every single day that we're open. And sometimes, man, we sell out pre-orders within an hour of opening. So we open at 2, and by 3 o'clock, I've sold like 100+ dough balls worth of pizza. And then I just make pizza nonstop until I can get them all done, which usually takes till like between 7 and 8 o'clock at night.
So you're doing about 100 pizzas a day?
Do about 100 pizzas a day. I make all the dough myself. I ball all the dough. And then me and my partner, Gary, do all the prep. We open up at 2 in the afternoon, and then I just bang pizzas out nonstop, listening to some cool music. And it's been pretty awesome to almost be able to step back into relearning a lot of stuff. I mean, I've only been away from making all the pizza myself for about 2 years prior to this. But man, you lose it quick. People don't realize, like, I understand now how restaurant guys, start delegating all the work, and then a couple years down the road, it's like, they're like, oh my God, I can't even cook anymore. I can't even get in the kitchen. I'm like, I'm trapped. I got to have all these guys work for me. I see it myself, like within 2 years of not making every single pizza and every single dough ball, man, you lose your rhythm, you lose your physicality.
Yeah.
You lose just the nuances that make the pizza go from being like really special to okay to really amazing. And so it's been awesome to spend this last like 5 or 6 months, like just making pizza, and in a way, even more than I've ever done in my life, because I have no customers near me. So it's almost like I have my own private practice studio where I just make like 300+ pizzas by myself every week and try to figure out like what the heck I'm doing.
Well, it's cool. kind of like full circle, as you said, back to it's native son returns to Jersey, right? So you're back at a small little operation, kind of like where you, not too far from where you started many years ago, but 25 years ago, maybe, was it?
1996.
Wow. Yeah. 20.
The bakery was 94, so yeah. 94 was the bakery, and then, or 93, and then the pizzeria was 96.
And then I know for a long time, it was you were the only one making the pizzas when we filmed with you. And for those of you who are watching and who have not seen the videos that we did with Anthony when he had his San Francisco Una Pizza Napoletana, go back and go to pizzaquest.com and check those videos out. Just put it in the search, and you'll see a series of about 7-8 videos that we made with you, where it was like I always felt like it was like your little temple. The oven was your shrine, and where you worked, your altar, and you made them all. It was very personal, a lot like a lot of our artistic pizza makers, the Chris Biancos, and there's a cadre of some of you who have sort of become the poster boys for this artisan pizza movement. And it was always about you making the pizza, and then you have to go through the period now of growth where you have to pass the baton or share the work, or you get too big to do it all yourself, so you have to train people. And then you have to have proteges. And so it sounds like you've got some of those. You've brought some over from other places. You can tell us a little bit about your guys. But that's a transition, like you say, to be able to let go of the reins, to let go of control. So that whole learning arc has got to be pretty interesting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being completely like self-absorbed and somewhat selfish the majority of my life.
Like all of us.
Whatever. I admit my faults easily. Especially when it comes to the pizzeria. I mean, I mean, in New Jersey, when I opened, I worked for 8 years. I didn't even have one employee. So not only did I make all the pizza, I even served the pizza. I answered the phone. So, it's been such a slow, like, build from that to like eventually having like, 10 people on the floor and a manager and, a prep person in the morning and 2 pizza guys and a small plate guy. it's been a very, very slow progression of having to learn, like, where I fit in that, my identity in that. I mean, my identity to myself, regardless of what customers thought of me, has always been like, well, I make all the pizza. That's always been my thing. Like, I make
Right.
all the pizza. And when I had to let go of that, it's like, it's a pretty big thing to get your head around and to understand, like, well, then what am I doing here? And like, I can remember even being in the restaurant in New York and having, the first handfuls of experiences where customers would come up to me and be like, man, thank you. The pizza was amazing. And I'm like, oh, you're welcome. But I'm like, I didn't make the dough and I didn't make the pizza. Why are you thanking me?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, but that's what restaurateurs do. So I had to really even learn how to, like, I felt guilty taking any, accolades for something that, like, I actually didn't do every single little aspect of.
Yeah.
And everyone around me is like, yeah, but that's normal. You're supposed to, it's your thing either way. Like, you're a part of this. Like, and so that's been a very interesting learning experience for me. And I got to say, man, there's a lot of beauty in that also. And there's a lot of beauty in learning to trust other people, learning to find a way to keep people around you hopefully inspired. And, the two guys that I have right now that are going to stay with me as I go forward, we're both pizza makers at Roberta's in New York City, which is, a very famous
Roberta's
pizzeria.
kind of like a mother house for a lot of talent, the people that have sprung board
Not
up.
only in pizza, but just in general. I mean, I would say, like, almost every restaurant in New York City that has anything going on generally has a cook and a general manager pass through that's been at Roberta's. It's pretty much guaranteed like that. It's like that. So, and I've actually had a lot of people in my place that worked at Roberta's as servers. My manager was the manager of Roberta's. And then again, like I said, both pizza makers. These guys are super talented. It's been really inspiring to work with them and watch their, almost acceptance of my way of doing pizza, which is so far from Roberta's way. And then be into it and then embrace it and then, like, want to learn it and try to take it further and, and to see their care and commitment where, like, back before the COVID shutdown, if, like, I wasn't working that night at the restaurant, I would come in with my daughter or whatever and hang out for like an hour, and to come in and see that, like, one of them would be really upset that, like, the pizza wasn't coming out right, like how I would be, or be in a bad mood, or just be, like, trying to get through, like, the rush of stress. And, that was, it really touched me, and it continues to. And so that's been awesome, like, to learn about that and to learn that about myself.
And exactly, learning about yourself, because, we always say on Pizza Quest, the sort of catchphrase there is a journey of self-discovery through pizza. And you've just expressed it totally. It's been a real self-discovery process for you, as it has been for many of your peers. We've talked with Jonathan Goldsmith, with Chris Bianco, with others who started out as sort of solo practitioners who, through just the popularity of their places, had to grow, and which meant they had to kind of get a whole new take on who they were in relationship to that. So Jonathan calls himself now the padrone of Spacco Napoli, because he's no longer making every pizza, but just like you, every pizza that comes out is still influenced and touched by your original vision and the values that you've instilled in your staff and trainers.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think that's, that's really the key. I think that can separate places, and hopefully separates what we're doing, from your average restaurant, is, like, to really invest the time and energy into people like that and build a team of people that really, it's not a joke. Like, it's truly like a relentless pursuit of, like, we want this to be better every day. And it's not like we're like, oh man, we got this, that's it, we're done. We're just going through the motions and no concerns. I mean, and the two guys that I have with me feel the same way, that, and even the servers at my spot in the city care, in a way that, like, I think is just an example of hopefully from my passion and caring and my commitment and drive that I try to bring to the table. Because, you know, honestly, that's all you can really do. I mean, it's not like I'm like this genius bread baker who figured things out that's never existed in the history of bread baking. I mean, you know, it's all pretty much out there now. It's more like the tweaks, and it's more really, I think, the commitment. It's like, are you going to go through the motions every day of doing things the right way?
Yeah.
You know, not the faster way, not the cheaper way, not the easier way, but the truly right way to get to the best result. And if that's going to be your MO every single day, that's what you're bringing to the table. That's what you're giving to the customers, you know?
Well,
And that's what I try to instill in my guys.
When I ate at your New York City location about a year ago was when I was up in New York, and you know, I brought a group in, we had a great dinner, and it was different from San Francisco because the whole restaurant was had taken, kind of gone up to another level of a sort of, just felt like a special place, kind of, it was beautifully designed, everything else. But the servers were great. I mean, the sense of hospitality was there, and you weren't working that night. You dropped in and visited with us towards the end of the meal, but everybody still was carrying whatever it was that you instilled in them. They were carrying it because we felt so welcomed and at home. And I think everyone in the restaurant felt the same way, that, you know, that not just our group, but everybody was being treated like they were very special to the servers. And I think that's a tribute to the work that you've put in, I think. So
I hope so. Thanks.
yeah, no, and of course, as again, you've been in the business a long time, and you've learned a lot, and you've shared a lot. And what we're going to do is we'll take a little break right now. We'll come back in the next segment. And Anthony, if you wouldn't mind give us a little tour of the Jersey location, show us the oven, maybe talk a little bit about this surprise. I just found out, I don't get you know, cable television, so I just found out that you've been a recurring character in a very popular series, and so I want to hear about that from you, and what's going to happen when New York City opens up with the New York City location, and you know, what's in the future for Anthony Mangieri. So come back and join us in part 2 of our discussion and conversation with Anthony Mangieri, Una Pizza Napoletana. And again, what town are you in Jersey?
Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, in Monmouth County.
All right. So if you're anywhere within striking distance, you want to get on the phone, maybe not when he's doing an interview, but get on the phone and call and place an order. You're doing it all orders by phone, or do you have an app, or is it all by phone?
No, we you know, in the beginning of the shutdown, I was scrambling to try to see like what was the best protocol, and there were so many different things coming out, like do this, do that, don't do this. We ended up kind of just settling into, again, like I generally lean towards simplicity, and we just kind of do phone orders mixed with walk-ups, and every day it can vary between, you know, like most days, you know, we've been blessed to open up, and sometimes we have like 20 people waiting online when we open it too. And so we won't answer the phone if people are at the front counter. We give them priority, and then we'll start answering the phone as we can. And then we just space it out, and we're like, okay, you ordered 2, that'll be ready in 10 minutes. And then it goes out from there. And basically my timing is about 10 minutes for 3 pizzas. So you just do the math. As you get 100 pizza orders, it goes out and out and out and out until clock.
All right. Well, we're going to hear more about that in part 2 of our conversation with you, Anthony. And those who are watching, come back for part 2. And it closed for a while, but I heard it came back. But I don't know currently, you know, whether they exist or not. So you know what? We're back. We're talking casually. We're with Anthony Mangieri. Thanks for coming back for part 2. We're sitting in with Anthony at Una Pizza Napoletana in again, I forget the name of the town you just
Atlantic Highlands.
Atlantic Highlands, okay. And the New York City branch, which we want to talk a little bit about that later, is temporarily closed during this period of time. Your journey has been long. You started in Jersey, grew up in Jersey, had a couple of places there first, kind of cut your teeth in the business, and then you know, it seems like it's getting close to 20 years ago, you suddenly like emerged in, I think, in Greenwich Village or somewhere on the edge of the village in New York City with the first Una Pizza Napoletana that we know of, that became pretty legendary because you were doing things then that were pretty radical. You were, first of all, you were making all the pizzas. That was a throwback, but it was also, you didn't see it so often. You're working with sourdough, naturally leavened crust, doughs that everyone else was using yeast. You were going back to an old way of doing it. You were doing, in a sense, a Neapolitan, a true Neapolitan, but with your personal, you weren't following the Naples rules, the pizza police rules. You were doing it your way. And then there was like, people would come in and, they had a limited menu, and it was like, we're doing the way you wanted to do it. And it was working. And you got this national reputation for being one of the new emerging stars in the pizza world. And then the next thing, when I caught up with you, by then, you had moved to San Francisco, and you had moved relocated. I don't know what it meant to the city when you closed the original Una, but suddenly you're in San Francisco. And then the next thing I know, you're back in New York. So that's been kind of a long 25-year sort of journey of self-discovery, as we said in part one. Where are we now? We're in your new location, which is kind of going back a little bit to the original Una in terms of size.
Yeah.
Oh, so what's your oven like now? And are you using these kind of the exact same model that you started out with, or have things changed for you?
Right. Well, I mean, every location, there's tweaks, and I learn things that seem to work better, whether it's the counter layout or where the pizza peel sits or the space I need for movement or how the kitchen should be set up. All the restaurants that I've had, I did 90% of the construction in myself, and I also designed them all without any kind of architect influence, except the newest one that we have in New York City.
Lost the image. Oh, there, you're back.
Yeah.
You're back.
Yeah. Except for the New York one that we currently have. That was done in a different way. I opened that with 2 partners, and we had investors, and we hired like a real architect, and, mood boards were created and such.
Right.
And that's what we had.
You were in a different game at that point.
Yeah, well, not in the long run. I ended up right where I always do, which is grinding away. But
right, you're now
at least temporarily, I thought I was in a different game.
Yeah.
So this one in New Jersey was, again, like, because there is, I have my ways and my comfort zones and my things that make me feel safe. And so this place, I built out myself. I designed everything in here on a piece of paper. So this space that we're in, I'll take you guys on a walkthrough. This was an empty shell. There was no electric. The walls were ripped out. There was nothing, literally nothing in here. There was no plumbing. So it was just a big empty room from front wall to back wall. And it had sat empty actually for, I'm going to say about over 10 years. So I actually walked this space before I moved to San Francisco. I walked this space with a buddy of mine that I mountain bike with and a real estate agent one day after we were done mountain biking. Hold on one second. I got somebody trying to call me. Sorry. And we walked this space. It was owned by a different person at the time, and it just didn't make sense. The building is quite large, and it goes into another section. This used to be an old bank like 100 years ago, so there was a safe and all this stuff. And at that time, they wanted me to take everything, and I knew my business model wouldn't fit. And so I ended up walking away, and I moved to California and opened out there. When I moved back to New York, I rented a storage unit like a block away from here so I could go mountain biking, because there's a lot of mountain biking right in town here, right up the street. And there was a for rent sign in the window. And I was like, oh my God, this place has been sitting for rent since I left? Wow. So my buddy Gary, we were hanging out. He was like, why don't you call and see? So I called, and the real estate agent was a fan of my restaurant in the city and was like, oh my God, we got to make this happen. So he really tried to sell it and the idea to the current owner. And then he got on board, and then it took us from probably September or October until April of that year to come to terms with the lease and how we would do this, because I wanted to get the liquor license with it, but I didn't want to take the whole building and like all these things. And I wanted him to do some of the construction because it was really a shell. So I wanted them to like at least vanilla box some of the walls, because, I was like, I know how to do a lot of basic construction, but you know, I also just knew like I wouldn't have the time because I was running New York also. So we came to a good term, and then we ended up with this. So I designed it, and Gary and I did all the work. We painted the walls, we ceramic tiled everything, every table, all the marbles from a friend of mine who has a big marble quarry in New Jersey, the bar, the pizza counter, every table. I picked out the marble, he cut it. We actually glued the marble to the plywood underneath the tables just to show you how far down we went with everything. So I'll give you guys a little tour. Tell me if, yeah.
Let me ask you another thing. You know, one of the things you were famous for in the first New York City version was that you built the oven yourself. That was very radical. And if I'm not mistaken, you not only built it, but then you like tore it down and rebuilt it.
Right.
Because
so
you
yeah,
tweak it. And did you do the same thing with this place?
well, the first oven that I built myself was the one in New Jersey. The one in New York, I didn't build that one. A guy from Naples built that one, and you know that thing was, man, it was a disaster. Like as soon as I used it, I was like, and I mean, I was still learning a lot. So I mean, I just felt it though myself when I used it. I was like, this thing is no good. So I used it, and just it drove me nuts, man, for many years. And then finally, I ripped it out and put in my first Acunto oven from Naples. And this was back when the only way to get an Acunto was to like call them direct, wire them money to their bank account, and they would be like, send us the money, we'll send you the oven.
Yeah, right.
And that was it. Then I had to get riggers to come and try to put this oven in this space. The floor was like going like this. I thought it was going to collapse. It was crazy, but we got through it. And so I'll give you guys a little tour
Right.
here.
Yeah,
how do I flip this thing around? Is there a way to do that? Yes. Okay, here we go. So,
all right, you got it.
So here we are. So these are the windows that I was talking about. So these are huge windows that open up. And you can see I built this counter here with the idea of having seating, but now we just line this up with wine. We have music playing. The window is open all the way up to the ceiling. And, you know, and we just sell it right out the window, and it's pretty awesome. We have the menu and everything. And then you can see, so the floor in here is the original floor. We redid it. This is the original bank floor from 100 years ago. All the art in here is from dear friends of mine. Every art piece in here is original. These brick walls are the original brick walls. All this stuff Gary and I built. The bar back, everything.
That's nice.
It doesn't look totally like it would because we, you know, obviously don't have indoor dining right now. So, and you can see.
There's the oven, yeah.
Yep, there's the oven. So, you know, it has a really cool kind of feel to it. At night especially, it's very warm. You know, everyone that came in right from the beginning when we first opened said that this place felt like it had been lived in for a very, very long time. There's a sign a dear friend of mine painted that you see when you walk in.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, well, and again, the whole aspect of restaurant being a welcoming place is important.
And this counter, I really love the way this came out. It just feels very old school. The tile's all from Italy. I tiled all that myself. You know, this is
Where did you develop those skills of being able? Is that something you have always known how to do? Did you teach yourself?
Yeah, I mean, a mix, man. My dad was an electrician and kind of had a knack for being able to do anything. And I kind of just got stuck kind of doing that with him, and just, you know, also, man, you know, like it's survival. Like, you know, I've never had like investors or anything other than the one in New York. So every restaurant's been me just squeezing it out from one thing to another and being on a shoestring and just having to be, you know, doing what I got to do what I do. So you just learn out of, you know, necessity. So that's our oven. I went back to the blue, like in San Francisco, and also it's kind of like a combination, like homage to Naples, which is like kind of, you know, always blue. And also the sea, man. We're like, if you want, I'll take you guys out front. You can see down the road. We're like a block from the water. And in normal times, the ferry goes straight to New York City in 45 minutes. So
really,
yeah. And then, you know, we have like, there's St. Anthony Abate, the protector of pizza makers and firemen.
Nice. So you got
And
your patron saint and
yeah,
guardian angel.
yeah. And then here's the kitchen, you know, very basic.
Yep.
It's very big. So again, the space was quite large. So I ended up wanting to make the kitchen bigger than I would have normally done because I didn't want to have so much seating that we wouldn't be able to handle the volume of seating. So we kind of decided to take up this big space for the kitchen,
Uh-huh.
just because, you know, I would rather have my normal amount of seats and have it be busy than have like this same sprawling dining room that's like half empty or full, and it's taken me 3 hours to make all those pizzas. So that was sort of the deal. And then,
It's always nice to have space in the kitchen and not feel
yeah,
like you can't even turn around.
yep. And then we did all the woodwork in here. We put this wainscoting up, everything. The bathrooms are, you know, we did very old fashioned, you know, they have
Yep.
green. Yep. And that's it.
So with what you just said about the ferry, so basically if I go to the city for whatever reason, and if I have a couple of hours to spare, I could grab a ferry and be at your place in 45 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, in normal times, there's two towns down here that the ferry goes to, the Atlantic Highlands and the Highlands. Since the shutdown, it only goes to the Highlands. So it's like about a 5-minute car ride, or you can there's a beautiful path that you can walk on. I'm going to show you guys the storefront. The building is very old. It's kind of like the jewel of the town. And it was a shame that it sat empty for so long. It's very old.
With those windows, you would think the windows alone would have been, you know, like perfect for anybody to jump up on.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is.
It's really a special building.
And it was a bank, originally a bank, huh?
It was a bank, yeah. And then it was like a diner of some kind, like an old school diner. And then one of the baseball players from the Mets ended up buying the building and turned it into an Italian restaurant that failed.
Oh,
and
really?
I think that was around the time when I first saw it. And I think he was still the owner of the building at that time. And then he sold it to the current owner.
It wasn't Keith Hernandez, was it?
No, his last name was. No, I think his name was Valentine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby Valentine was the manager there, I think.
I don't think it was Bobby Valentine, though. I think it was somebody else. There's another Valentine that was on the Mets. Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's such a cool space. It's a great space, and I'm sure it didn't look anything like what it looks like now when you first took it over. But still, it's a gorgeous building.
Yeah, you know, that's the funny thing. Like Gary and I used to laugh because we did all the work ourselves. So it did take time because at the same time I was running the New York restaurant. So what I would do is I would make dough in the morning in New York, come down on the train or the boat, do construction in here until like 4:30. Then I would take the train or the boat back up to New York City and work service in there. So, you know, it took longer than it would have if I had nothing else going on with this restaurant. So, you know, we used to laugh because we're like, man, people are going to come in and be like, what the heck have you guys been doing in here for a year? Because it looks like it's always been like this, but it didn't look anything like this. We made it look like it's been here for like 100 years and it's, you know, it's all new. And we didn't do it to be kitschy either. It wasn't like, you know, it doesn't feel like a fake kind of a old feel. It just somehow came out like this. I love it. I love being in this space.
I'm sure I can see why you would. And of course, it doesn't hurt that you've also put your own blood, sweat, and tears into every tile that's in that place.
Yeah, totally.
Well, before we run out of time, I know that some of the viewers would be mad at me if I didn't ask you to talk a little bit about. Suddenly, you're now a TV star. How did that happen? You ended up as a character playing yourself on Billions, right? With Paul Giamatti and Damian Lewis, but I don't get that show. So tell me about your character and what's going on in the plot that got you into the show.
Sure. So the creators of the show, Brian Koppelman and David Levine, you know, both love food. They're like super into food. I mean, and if you watch the show, you would see that they always have kind of like tried to you know, throw a nod to restaurants that they love and iconic places in New York City, Peter Luger's, you know, they're big supporters of David Chang, just a lot of like cool spots. And Brian Koppelman was a supporter of the restaurant in the East Village before I moved to SF. When I came back, we met when I opened up back in the Lower East Side, and he started to come in, and we became friendly. And he's been so supportive. And then he you know, they reached out to us. The company reached out to us like 2 years ago, and they were like, "Hold on one sec." There it is. Sorry. And they were like, "We would like to feature you guys on a episode." And we were like, "Of course, amazing."
Yeah, right.
And we did that, and I guess it went well. And so for the next season, they, you know, approached us again, and you know, the storyline on the show is that Damian Lewis's character always had this pizzeria that he went to that he knew from childhood. And then basically what happens is last season, not the season that's currently being filmed, they didn't finish because of the shutdown, but last season, his pizza maker is an old man, and he's like, "I want to retire, move to Florida." And Damian Lewis is like, "All right," because he had at that point had become a partner with him on the show in the pizzeria. And he retires. So basically, we were given the opportunity to almost become Damian Lewis's new pizza hangout. And so they wrote us into the show that now his new pizzeria that he loves and supports, instead of the one that this old guy had, is my place for the pizza. And Brian and David,
by name, did they cite you by name, Una Pizza?
Yeah, so that's been the amazing thing, is that Brian and David wrote it into the show, but kept it as what it really is, which is an amazing opportunity for us at Una, that they didn't write it in and change the name and my name. They actually were like, "You can play yourself, and you're going to keep the name, and you can wear Una Pizza clothes." So like everybody in the show wears Una Pizza shirts. Like they had extras on one of the thing, playing waiters and waitresses. They're all wearing Una shirts.
You can't buy branding like that.
Man, I'll tell you, I said to him once, I was like, "Man, I'm like, if we have to go like kill somebody, I'm in." It's like a line from the, "Whatever you want." I said, "I'll talk Godfather."
Now we're talking about a different movie there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, "That sounds like it's from The Godfather."
Yeah, right.
But no, man, I mean, him and David have been such amazing guys to have in my life, with their generosity, artistic vision, kindness. I mean, truly, like, all joking aside, I just think they're beautiful human beings, you know?
Well, does the Damian Lewis character, who's the sort of the hedge fund genius or whatever he is that he does, the billionaire,
He hasn't given me any tips on how to make money.
Does he invest in your restaurant in the show as part of the storyline?
Yeah, well, I don't know the storylines until they tell them to me, you know, and they're kept very private before, you know, they're aired. You know, you're just not allowed to talk about them. So I only know the storyline up to what we filmed. And as of now, the last part of the filming was that, yeah, like basically Damian Lewis comes to me and wants me to kind of get into some kind of business with him, because his concern is that you know, I need to become rich, and that I'm working like this and getting nowhere. And what about people that can't taste the pizza all over the country, or that can't get in for the 100 doughs that I make? And what's really cool is they had Dominic Lombardozzi come on and play my cousin. Now, who Dominic Lombardozzi is, this amazing actor who was just in The Irishman with Robert De Niro.
Oh, yeah.
And Martin Scorsese, and he was in Ray Donovan. I mean, the guy's like so talented. And him and I, we actually met before this and became friendly because we have some mutual friends. And then when I found out he was going to do it, I was like, "Oh my God, this is so amazing." And we became fast friends from that. And the crazy thing is, when we filmed the episode together, we looked at each other. It was almost like, I feel like we are related. you know, and so we've stayed in contact and stuff. And, you know, he's an amazing guy and such a talented actor. And obviously I am not an actor, and it's been, you know, it was tough the first couple of times to do it because it's such a large crew. So when they come in, you know, they come into a restaurant like this size, no joke, there's like 200 people. Like they have like security, they take the space across the street for storage. There's like camera on tracks and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, a kind of a dummy pizza maker from New Jersey that I can't even remember the lines that they write for me. So I have felt bad at times where I'm like, I see everybody in the crew and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for all of you that you got to hear this and hear me trying to say these lines. But it seems like the last one, especially.
Do you have to do retakes, lots of retakes because you didn't get it right and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Actually, not the last shot we did. The last one we filmed, I actually started to kind of, not to say I am an actor, but I at least started to get it into my head, like how to do it. Yeah. And how to get through it. Yeah. And how to just disconnect from yourself in a way and just like be in the moment and really listen to the person instead of being like, remembering like, okay, I got to say this. I'm just thinking like, I got to say that. Okay, it's time for me to say this. And I'm like all like spazzed out trying to say it. So I tried to just like really get in the zone and just live that moment. But the one before that where it was just me, there was a scene with me just answering the phone and talking to Damian Lewis's character who wasn't in the scene because it's being faked. That one like was pretty hard for me to get over the hump. And at one point, I think Brian Koppelman was behind like a screen and he yells out like, De Niro, in front of everybody. And I was like, oh, that's embarrassing.
What was it that he said? Hold it. Now, see, I'm having the same problem now. My phone is going off. Okay. What was the line?
He jokingly, like, while I was trying to say the lines, I guess to, you know, be like, come on, get more motivated and get it more like, you know, get it good. He's like, De Niro!
De Niro.
With everyone, and I felt very, you know, very self-conscious and stuff. But it's been awesome, man. The crew is amazing. I'll tell you, it's amazing, like, the volume of people that have to work to make a show like that and how much of an amazing unit they work as and supportive unit, and to watch this amount of people, you know, and these days that they have are such grinds, man. Like they work like, you know, one of the shoots we did with them, I mean, it started at like 5 a.m. I don't think it ended until 2 a.m. Wow. I mean, these are long grinding days where everybody stays on it, gives it their all, and everybody's become kind of friendly with us at the restaurant and we're friendly with them. And I've taken my daughter on set since, and because she had this thing recently where she wanted to be an actress, and and they treated her so generously. So it's been an amazing little twist in my life.
Just watch out for two things. One, if you find yourself, you know, going to the director and saying, "I'm not going to say these lines. What's my motivation here?" Then you know you've gone Hollywood. And
two, that ain't gonna happen.
Two, make sure they don't kill you off, kill your character off.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard one to work out.
Yeah. When I get that one where I read it, I'm like, Mangieri falls into the oven or something. I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean? That's it? It's over?
You go, it was a good ride.
He falls in the mixer.
Well, it's been so much fun catching up with you. It's been hard to believe, like 7-8 years since we filmed in San Francisco together.
Wow.
And of course, you and I have done a few things at the expos where we get up on the stage and do, you know, sort of conversations like this. But now, you know, so much has changed, and I had planned to see you much sooner than this at the various expos, but they've all been postponed. And we've got the Zoom world right now to keep us connected. And I look forward to the next time when all this opens up for me to get back up to your turf. Now I know how close you are to the city. So even if you haven't opened the city place yet, which I'm sure will at some point reopen, at least I know where to find you in Atlantic Highlands. And so, Anthony, thank you so much for being with us. Best of success. I know you've got lots of other projects in the works, and now I've got to get a subscription to Showtime so I can watch Billions.
Thank you.
Pardon me. Keep up the great work, and all I can say is keep pacing yourself. You're only going 3 days a week, right? You're open only 3 days.
Yeah, we were going to add another day for the summer, but now we made it through the summer, and it's been pretty solid. So for now, we're just going to keep it as is. And I've been trying to dedicate my other days to be with my daughter a lot, you know.
Beautiful. It's great to have
Yeah.
a more balanced life like that, and
Trying.
enjoy it while you can, because when COVID ends and we're all sort of back in some kind of renewed new normal, yeah, you'll have juggling five balls again.
Yeah.
But again, continue that journey of self-discovery, and thanks for sharing it with us on Pizza Talk, and thank all of you for joining us today. And we'll see you on the
Thank
next
you.
episode. Thanks.
Thanks so much.